Hello there, pixel pushers, everybody out there using Affinity Photo. This is Sadiq Hussain here with another quick tutorial. This time we're still in the Tools menu. So we're going through each of the Tools menu and doing a quick 5-10 minute tutorial. Just explain what each of the tools does and any tips and a typical task you would use it on. So today we're going to be looking at this tool down here, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, about sort of 13 or 14 down, and it's really the combination of the dodge, burn and sponge brush tool. And so the main ones you'll be using is the dodge and burn tools. And so what do they do? Before we look at those, because there are slightly unusual names for tools in the modern digital age, but of course with like a lot of software, the tools, the functions, the menu items sometimes are named after legacy from the real world analog days, and the dodge and burn is really something that we've got from the old darkroom days. So essentially, let me just in case people aren't aware, this is a diagram of an enlarging machine that you would have typically in a darkroom when you were developing photographs. So you developed your negative, you got your lamp housing here, you put your negative inside of here, and the lamp shines down through a lens, you focus it, and it forms an image onto your photosensitive paper, which is on the easel here. So essentially it's an upside down projector, okay? And the negative being a negative, the dark areas represent the light areas in your image, and the light areas represent the dark areas. So when the light shines through the negative and hits the paper's photosensitive. Obviously the paper would need to be developed in chemicals, so you can't see what the image is going to be like until you develop it and fix it. But the principle that you know is that if more light shines through the negative and hits the paper is going to turn from white to dark. So the longer or the more the light hits a given area of the paper, the darker it gets. Now, if you don't do anything and you just time it, then the whole image's exposure would be dependent on how long you kept this light on for, whether it was a second or half a second or 10 seconds. It would brighten or darken the whole of the image. But if you wanted to be selective in the old analog days, you would do something called dodge and burn. And that essentially, if you think of burn as in burning wood, as in scorching wood, so it gets darker, the burning would be you would burn the light onto the paper for a longer period of time. And dodging would be you would block the light. So just underneath here, you'd either use your hand or you'd use a piece of paper or a piece of card, possibly even cut into a particular shape. And as you, with a bit of experience, block the light coming from the enlarger onto the paper, you are dodging the light. So you're blocking the light, and the more light that you block in a given area, then the lighter that part of the image will be. But where you didn't block it, the light would hit the paper and therefore it would get darker. So that's essentially what it is that burning makes an area darker and dodging makes it lighter. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's demonstrate that with the dodge and burn tool. So let me switch that off. This is a blank document, and on there, if I had we'll do it with a shape first. If that's a 50% grey shape, and it's got a certain brightness to it or exposure to it. If I go to the burn tool, okay, and you can obviously, just like any other brush, you can change the size of the brush, but let's keep it quite large. And if I paint with the burn tool, particularly if I do it quite uniformly, then you can see it's darkening it. Okay, it's burning it. It's increasing the darkness of an image in a given area. And of course, you can be a lot more selective in how this burning or dodging looks by the type of brush that you choose. Remember, you've got this whole range of brushes here. So depending on the style of brush that you choose, you can. And this is cumulative. So as I keep clicking the mouse and moving over it, it gradually darkens it because I'm using the burn option. And that would be the equivalent in the old days of leaving the light hitting the paper in a given part for a longer period of time, but then blocking it from another part, and that would be a bit lighter like it is there. Okay, so if I then go into dodge, then the opposite would happen. Now, as I'm doing, I am now blocking the light if I was in a dark room, and it's now making the image lighter. And of course, if I kept doing it, it would make it lighter and lighter and lighter. Okay, so that you are dodging it. Now, you can change the opacity here. You can change the flow and the hardness. All that affects what the effect looks like, how subtle it is, or how hard-edged it is. So you can do all of that. If we go on to an actual image now and look at this image, and let's say we wanted to darken that shadow. It's already quite dark, but if you wanted to darken it to emphasize it, then you would go to burn and change the size of your brush. And then if I zoom in a bit, as I paint onto that, it will darken that. Let me just change the opacity a little bit. Okay, it would darken that shadow. So we're burning that. Oh, okay, I need to select the layer first. Easy mistake, okay. It wasn't doing it. So now that's darkening that shadow. But it won't affect the actual colour underneath. We can still see a little bit of the green grass because up here, if you make sure that that's ticked there, protect the hue, meaning protect the colour underneath. In most cases, you'd want to do that. Now, of course, where you get to the edge, you don't want to be going over the grass like that, because then that's almost creating an extra shadow. So we got to be a little bit careful by reducing the size of the brush so you can actually fine-tune where you're darkening it. Okay, and obviously the bigger the brush that you have, the easier it is to go over it. Let's just increase the opacity a little bit and the flow, just so we can do it quickly. Okay, so that's darkening the shadow. Now, if obviously going over the edge is an issue, there's another way of doing it more effectively in most cases. So let me just go back to if I select the shadow first very loosely. So if I go to the selection brush, and this is fairly easy. If I've now selected the shadow, because I've selected it, anything inside of that will be affected when I go back to the burn tool. And now actually I can have quite a large brush, because it doesn't matter about going over the edge, because you've done a selection. And if I just loosely paint with that, it is making the whole shadow. Well, make sure that the layer that you're working on is selected. That's twice I've made that mistake. Okay, it doesn't matter about the selection, we can get rid of that afterwards. Okay, and then just do a deselect and that's deselected, and that's made that shadow darker. Clearly, if I want to lighten it, I'd do a dodge. So let's do a selection again. Done a selection. Go back to dodge and burn and do dodge. And now, again with a large brush, if I now paint with the dodge brush, that will make that lighter. And again, it's keeping it within the selected area because I did a selection first. So that's now making that shadow not as harsh. You can see now, and I just do a deselect and press the escape key on your keyboard, or deselect from the menu at the top here. Select and deselect does that. So now we've got a lighter shadow. The same applies to, let's say there's a bit of a shadow on the face and we want to lighten the face ever so subtly. So do a selection first using the selection brush. Doesn't need to be too accurate. So let me just want the skin tones. So just this part here, that's perfect. And then go to the dodge option again. And again, you don't need to worry too much about just a subtle. Right, okay. Deselect. So now the face is not in shadow as much. And the shadow here is lighter. So that's a quick example of dodge and burn. Of course, if we wanted to select that again and then burn, make the shadow more pronounced, I could just change that to burn, and as I click the mouse, stop, click the mouse, let go, you're adding cumulatively over the top. Okay, so that has made the face almost the way it was. In fact, it's a little bit darker. So that's dodging and burning. Okay, very simply, it's about making an area darker or lighter. Normally when you're trying to blend a composite image together, you've pasted something in, you want to create a shadow, you want to remove a shadow, all of that really adds to it. And there are other ways of doing it, but really traditionally the dodge and burn would be the way to do it in the darkroom. And of course now you've got the same tools inside of any half decent photo editing software. So that's dodge and burn, very simply, to darken pixels or to lighten pixels. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed that or found it useful, then please give us a like, and also that enables me to make more and more videos. If you didn't like it, then please tell me why, and we can try something different or have a different approach. Any comments or suggestions would be greatly appreciated. This is Sadiq Hussain. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video.